And we are live. Peace, 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 and Black Power family. Welcome to another episode of Insuring Our Black Future, broadcasting live here every Thursday of the month at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 on the West Coast, which is the West Coast. And we have our goddess of transformation, our goddess of legacy building, our goddess of healing, and our goddess of adjudication in the building here to give us the tools that we need to ensure that we are doing what is necessary to ensure a legacy for our future. So without any further ado, becomes my honor and privilege at this time to introduce some, present the others, the goddess of insurance, Dawn Douglas is in the building.
Peace, 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 Black family. I hope everybody is doing okay during this time. I hope you guys are keeping your spirits up. Hope you're doing what you need to do to make sure that you and your family are taken care of and that, you keeping your spirits high. Um, last week we did a quick little synopsis on what I was going to be talking about today. And what I am going to be talking about today is what these insurance companies are looking for um, when it comes to you guys filling out these applications and what kind of medical questions and things like that they're going to be asking. So you guys have a much better understanding um, of where your health needs to be in order to get some of these traditional life insurance policies. Now, before I begin, I do want to say that if you are over 40, then you do qualify for what's called a guaranteed issue policy. And what that means is doesn't matter what your health situation is, they will cover you for a limited amount of coverage, typically about $35,000 to $40,000 worth of coverage, and it is going to be at a much higher cost than traditional life insurance because you do have some severe health issues that a traditional life insurance company is not going to cover you. So you still have that option available, and I do encourage you to exercise the option if you do get declined from a traditional life insurance company, because you can also start yourself an annuity to help put some money away for your future. So you do have some options. So I don't want you to get discouraged if you do happen to get a decline on your life insurance. Now, I told you guys last week that I was going to go through this long list of stuff to tell you just what these companies are looking for. And this is not an all-inclusive list. And keep in mind that every life insurance company has a different set of criteria for them, or as far as where they will approve or decline you. So again, this is not all inclusive. This does not cover all life insurance companies, but this is a generalization and some of the main things that insurance companies are looking at when you apply for some life insurance. So I'm just going to go down this list. It is in alphabetical order. So we're going to start off with, of course, AIDS. AIDS is an automatic decline for traditional life insurance. You can still get like I said, a guaranteed issue. You can get an annuity, or you can get an accidental death policy. And I discourage people from getting an accidental death policy, especially if you're over 40, because those policies state very specifically how you have to die in order for it to pay out to your family. So you really got to read the fine print in there. If you get you an accidental death policy, you really need to know what the fine print is in there so that your family is not sitting here waiting for a check that's never going to come. You need to know the specifics of that accidental death policy. And they do sound very appealing because you can get a lot of life insurance or a lot of coverage, I'll say. You can get a lot of coverage for a very little bit of money. I'll give you an example. You can get $150,000 for $15 a month. But again, you have to die a very specific way in order for that policy to pay out. So I need you guys to to keep that in mind and make sure that you don't just sign up for an accidental death policy thinking that, oh man, I'm straight now. If anything happens to me, my family is going to be taken care of, because that is not going to be the case. And I would hate for your family to find that out when something happens to you and they're trying to get this policy to pay out. So going back down this list, AIDS, alcoholism, um, companies are going to look at if you've had any alcohol related instances that have been reported, like you've been hospitalized for alcoholism. They're going to look at your medical record. Some companies are going to go back 5 years. Some companies are going to go back 10 years. So again, it all depends on the company and what their actual criteria is. So please know, if you have an alcohol problem, it could potentially cause you to be declined for a policy. Alzheimer's is an automatic decline for traditional. You can get it. You can get a guaranteed issue life insurance policy if you're over 40. If you've had any amputations from a disease, it's an automatic decline. If it was from like an injury, you could still be accepted. Again, each company's criteria is going to be different. Aneurysm, depending on the company, it could be an automatic decline, or they're going to look at your medical records and see how long ago it was, and you could potentially still qualify for traditional life insurance. Angina is going to be an automatic decline. Again, if you're over 40, with any of these things that I named, if you're over 40, you still can get guaranteed issue life insurance policy. But like I said before, they're going to limit the amount of coverage you can get, and it is going to be more expensive. So angioplasty, a stent implant, if it's been more than 5-10 years ago, you could potentially get it accepted. But if it's been recent, it's going to be a decline. Anxiety, it depends on if it's severe anxiety, if it's just mild anxiety, and what prescriptions they have you taken for your anxiety. So you could still potentially qualify for traditional life insurance. Again, it's going to depend on the severity of your anxiety and what kind of medications, if any, that you're taking. Arrhythmia, if it's been more recent than 10 years back, could potentially get declined. So keep that in mind. Arrhythmia, arthritis, moderate to severe rheumatoid arthritis could potentially get you declined. Osteoarthritis, you could still get accepted. Severe, moderate, including Humira and Nebro, things like that. So just depends on the kind of arthritis you have, how severe it is. It could potentially cause you to be declined, or you could get accepted. So what we have to do, one, we have to find out what the medical diagnosis is. We have to find out the medication. We have to find out how long ago you were diagnosed with this, and then we can call the company and talk to their underwriting department and see what they say. But some of this stuff is a hard no. There's no way around it, and some of it there may be, some wiggle room depending on all the circumstances surrounding it. Asthma, again, could potentially cause you to be declined. Arterial fibrillation, potential decline if it's been more recent than 10 years. Bipolar disorder could potentially cause you to get declined. Most companies are going to decline you, again, with the exception of a guaranteed issue. Hypertension, depending on your height, weight, whether or not you smoke, you could still qualify for traditional life insurance, or you could get declined. Bronchitis, depending on the severity, how often, and whether or not you smoke, you could be declined. Let's see. Bypass surgery, CABG, potential decline if it's been more recent than 10 years. Cancer, melanoma, skin, basal, squamous, any of those could potentially cause you to be declined. Again, we can call in and do a risk assessment depending on what type of cancer it is. If it's been more than 10 years back, you could still potentially be accepted into a traditional life insurance policy. But depending on if it's fairly recent, the chances of you getting a traditional life insurance policy are going to be pretty slim. Cardiomyopathy, Crohn's disease, colitis, COPD. Again, all of these that I'm naming off, I'm gonna tell you the ones that are hard nosed, with the exception of of course, the guaranteed issue policy. But like COPD, depending on the circumstances surrounding it, you could still potentially get traditional life insurance. Some of the companies are going to flat out decline you. Congestive heart failure, automatic decline. Cystic fibrosis, automatic decline. Depression, depending on the severity, whether or not you've been hospitalized due to it, it can go either way. You can get declined or you can be accepted, just depending on the circumstances and the medication. Dementia is automatic decline. Diabetes, type 1 or type 2, they're going to want to know if it's type 1 or type 2. They're going to want to know if you were diagnosed prior to age 50. If you were diagnosed prior to age 50, the chances of you getting traditional life insurance have dramatically decreased. And they're going to look at your height, your weight, your A1C, whether or not you smoke cigarettes, and whether or not it's controlled with insulin or medication. So you can still get traditional life insurance depending on the circumstances surrounding your diabetes. If your height and weight is good, your A1C is good, you could still qualify for a traditional life insurance policy, or they could decline you. It could go either way. So again, we have to know all the information to be able to call in and see what they say, and you could still potentially qualify or get declined. Disability or disabled, it depends on what the disability is. So again, we need to know the circumstances, what your disability is, what kind of medications you're on for it, and then we can call the company, do a risk assessment, and they'll tell us either yes or no. DUIs. So if you've had multiple DUIs within the last 5 years, you will get declined for life insurance. If you've had more, let me give you a number on that too. So if you've had 3 or more DUIs within the past 5 years, you are going to be declined for traditional life insurance. If you're over 40, you can get a guaranteed issue, or you can potentially qualify for a final expense policy, just depending on the age range of that policy. But DUIs do play a huge part in being able to qualify for life insurance because they consider you high risk. You could potentially kill yourself being drunk behind the wheel. Same thing with drug addiction. Most times it's a hard decline. Depends on how far back the drug addiction was, how you've progressed over the years. So again, circumstances surrounding that, you can go either way. But if it's fairly recent, they're going to decline you. Epilepsy can go either way. Depends on the circumstances surrounding the epilepsy. If it's been controlled with no meds, and you haven't had any seizures within the past 2 years, you could potentially qualify for traditional life insurance. If you're constantly having seizures, then the only thing you're going to qualify for if you're over 40 is that guaranteed issue. Felonies play a huge part in people being able to get life insurance as well. So anybody currently in prison is disqualified from getting life insurance. So no, if they're already in prison and you're trying to start a policy on them, that's a no-go. If they are on parole or probation, they cannot qualify for life insurance unless they're over 40. Then they can qualify for the guaranteed issue life insurance policy. And I'm going to talk about that when I finish going through this list, because I need you guys to understand how a guaranteed issue policy works. But people who are on parole and probation, the companies have different time frames. Sometimes some companies, they have to have been off for at least 3 years. Some they have to have been off for at least 5 years. Some is 2 years. Every company is different. But if they are currently on parole or on probation or in prison, do not qualify for life insurance. Now, let me say this. if it's a person that already had life insurance prior to going to prison, as long as somebody's making sure that premium paid, that life insurance policy will stay in place. Now, how it will pay out, that I don't know. I've never had a client who is in jail, already had life insurance, and now I got to try to figure out how, something happens to them while they were in prison, and I got to figure out how this policy is going to pay out. So that's something I definitely don't have information on, because I've never had to deal with that scenario right there. But like I said, everything else, if they are currently in prison, on parole, on probation, they do not qualify for life insurance. Fibromyalgia, you can still get traditional life insurance. Gastric bypass, if it's been more than a year, you can still qualify for traditional life insurance. If you've had a heart attack, if it's been more than 10 years since your heart attack, you can still qualify for traditional life insurance. But if it's been less than 10 years, the chances of you getting a traditional life insurance policy, slim to none. If you have a heart murmur, it could potentially be declined depending on the company. If you've recently had heart surgery within the past 10 years, chances of you getting a traditional life insurance policy can go either way depending on the company. Hepatitis A, you can still get life insurance, traditional life insurance. Hepatitis B or C, hard decline. HIV plus VE is a hard decline. Again, these hard declines, if you're over 40, you can go with guaranteed issue. Hyper or hypothyroidism, you could still get traditional life insurance. Kidney disease, kidney failure, dialysis, kidney stones. Kidney stones, you can still qualify for traditional life insurance. Kidney disease or kidney failure, if you're on dialysis, is a hard decline. Leukemia is a hard decline. Lupus, discoid lupus, you can still qualify for traditional life insurance. If it's systemic, it's a hard decline. Liver disease or liver transplant is a hard decline. Marijuana, now, I know companies are going to be changing how they view this. So this is going to be a case-by-case basis, company-by-company basis, with marijuana becoming legal throughout the United States. Multiple sclerosis is a hard decline unless it's not progressive or relapsing. Then you could potentially still get traditional life insurance. Muscular dystrophy is a hard decline. If they're on oxygen, it's a hard decline. If they have a pacemaker and they've had it for more than 10 years, they could possibly get traditional life insurance. Most cases is going to be a hard decline. Pancreatitis is another hard decline. Paralysis is another hard decline. Parkinson's disease is a hard decline. PVD, peripheral vascular disease, is a hard decline. Pulmonary embolism is a hard decline. Sarcoidosis is another hard decline. And you know what I want to say, because I know for a lot of these companies, and this is something that affects Black people, sickle cell anemia is not necessarily listed because it doesn't affect the entire population like a lot of this stuff does. Sickle cell is one of those things that is specific to the Black community, so it's not necessarily listed on these kind of lists that I have here. But I've been learning recently that is one of those things that is another hard decline. So again, if they're over 40, then do the guaranteed issue. But there are diseases and illnesses and ailments and disabilities out here. There's so many of them that everything might not be on this list. But if you have something wrong with you and you're not necessarily sure, you want to disclose that to the agent and give them the opportunity. If they're a broker like myself and they work with multiple companies, they have the opportunity to call multiple companies and see what's going to be the best fit for you, if anybody is going to accept whatever your situation is. If they are an agent tied to a specific company, that severely limits you. So if you know you have medical issues, you want to look for a broker versus an agent, because an agent works for a specific company. Brokers work for multiple companies. So we have more tools in our tool bags to try to help you. Schizophrenia is a hard decline. And let's see, sleep apnea is acceptable. If you've had a stroke, CVA, or TIA, it's a hard decline. Suicide attempt, most companies are going to decline that depending on how far back the suicide attempt was. If it's been more than 5-10 years, then you could potentially, depending on the company, still get covered, but most companies are going to decline you. If you need transportation assistance, i.e. you're in a wheelchair or you have to use a walker, you're probably going to get declined. And then height and weight. So all of these companies, of course, you know, as with anything else, they have height and weight charts. So that is also going to play a huge part, and that affects the Black community at large, because we, you know, I look at our obesity rate, and we seem to have the most health issues and the most overweight, you know, part of the population, especially in the South. Like if you go down south, you're gonna see some thick brothers and sisters down there, and they also have some, you know, a lot of health issues. So yes, they're gonna look at your height and your weight. And I'll tell you, I had a client that I helped out here in Vegas, and he is he's 6'10", 175 pounds, and it took me a minute to find a company to cover him because they consider him a health risk because he's just tall and slender. You know, the taller you are, they consider you to have more health issues. So it was a little bit of a challenge for me to find a company that would accept him at his height and weight, 6'10", 175 pounds. So again, all of this stuff plays a huge part in what these companies are looking at. And of course, if you smoke cigarettes, you are considered higher risk, so you're going to pay a higher premium. And I need people to understand that, like, you know, all of this stuff that we do to ourselves, it puts us more at risk. So don't be shocked if you're a smoker and an agent, or, you know, you're talking to a life insurance person like myself, and we give you this quote that you wouldn't necessarily expect them to hear, but it's because you're a smoker. And normally what I'll do is, if I know they're a smoker, to try to encourage them to stop smoking, I will show them the same quote, the same coverage amount and everything as if they were a non-smoker, so they can see the huge difference in cost. Like, this is what you would be paying if you stop smoking. And companies will reevaluate you. Like, if you're a smoker when you sign up, companies after, like, if you stop smoking for a year, it has to be a year that you have stopped smoking, and you have to be able to provide documentation from your doctor. They will reconsider and lower your monthly premium, but you have to stop smoking for a year. So those smoker rates are a little bit ridiculous, especially when when we start getting older. Like, those are some of the things that play a huge factor into how much we pay for our monthly premium in life insurance. So now I want to talk to you guys about the guaranteed issue policies, because I told you, like, some of these are hard declines, but if you're over 40, you can still qualify for guaranteed issue. So again, guaranteed issue policies cover people over the age of 40, no matter their health condition, because it doesn't ask any health questions whatsoever. And they're automatically approved, but there's a 2-year wait period for it to completely pay out. So say, for example, somebody gets a $15,000 life insurance policy, and they pass within the first year. You have to have the policy for 2 years in order for it to pay out in full. So if the person passes away before those 2 years, the family is going to get reimbursed all the premiums that were paid into the policy, plus an additional 10%. But if you, like I said, if you pass after those 2 years, then then they will pay out the entire amount to the family. So, you know, it's very important for us to understand why our health plays such huge has such a huge impact, not just on how we live in our daily lives, but it also has a huge impact on insurances. Your medical insurance is higher if you have pre-existing conditions, and your life insurance, like you can potentially not qualify for traditional life insurance if you have major health concerns. Then you're stuck with getting a guaranteed issue policy. And I don't mean that to say it's like it's a bad thing, because at least, I always tell people having a small policy in place is all 100% better than having no policy in place at all. So if all you can get is a guaranteed issue policy, please get it, because I guarantee your family is going to thank you for at least having something in place when the time comes and they have to pay for some homegoing services for you. So this is, like I said, it's not an all-inclusive list. This is just from the company that I work with. And you got to remember, there's a lot of life insurance companies out here, but this is some of the main things that they're going to be looking at. And there's a lot of stuff that's not on here. As you can see, autism is not on here. But if they have severe autism, they don't qualify for traditional life insurance. And there's things that you can do if you don't qualify for traditional life insurance. Like I said, one, if you're over 40, get that guaranteed issue policy. And two, start yourself an indexed annuity so that you're putting some money away that will also go to your family when you pass. So it's not like you just this is the only thing that you can do. There's other things you can do. That indexed annuity is extremely helpful in providing you with some additional income. And when your family passes, that's more money that's going to be rolled over to them. So that is what I have for you, Brother Knowledge Born. Do you have any questions for me right now?
Okay, so I saw some of the questions right here. Um, what I wanted to know is,
Uh-huh.
some of those stipulations in regards to accidental death and dismemberment policies in your experience. Were you able to help anybody with that, or because I know like in union functions and like fraternal organizations, credit, you know, unions, things like that, they kind of offer that, you know, accidental death and dismemberment policy as a part of their type of situation because they got some deal. You understand
Uh-huh.
what I'm saying? So if you pay dues to any kind of organization or anything like that, that's something that they offer as a benefit. So can we?
And it's still an accidental death policy. At the end of the day, you have to die a very specific way in order for it to pay out. It doesn't matter who's offering it to you. Like they have stipulations in there. Like you can't be the driver of a car and die in a car accident, because that's they don't consider that, they consider you at fault. So you have to be the passenger of the car. You have to die on the scene. You can't die at the hospital. So there's so many things that are in the fine print. That's why I said don't get, taken in by, oh man, I can get $150,000 in coverage and it's $15 a month. Okay, well read that fine print and see how you gotta, you know what I mean? Like you gotta die a very specific way. And they are very, very specific about how you have to die in order for this to pay out. Now, like the companies that I work with, they allow us to add the accidental death portion on top of a person's regular life insurance. So it'll double that person's life insurance if it's an accident. But if all you get is just a standalone accidental death policy, it's not going to benefit your family unless you die in an accident. So were there other
Okay, so
questions?
what about the dismemberment situation? The same. I could imagine it's even worse kinds of stipulation in regards to the
Oh, it is.
dismemberment.
It is. I mean, they're good to have as you know what I mean. It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. But they're very specific in how they out to people. So you have to read that fine print.
So for the ones that you named for disqualifiers, you talked about a lot of things that we have. You see what I'm saying? As a people, so what kind
So
of
as a people, we need to get on our shit and get our health together and eat better, so we can and teach our kids how to eat better, so that they don't end up with these problems that are going to knock them out for some tradition. And I can, and it's very sad. It's very disheartening for me to do what I do and not to be able to help everybody, because I can tell you I've had some 5'5", 320-pound people hit me up, and I'm like, I can't get you no traditional life insurance policy. One, your weight, your height, and then all those health issues. And they'll hit me up and be like, and I want $150,000 in coverage. No, and that's the reality. So we have to. It starts with us eating better. It starts with us taking better care of our health. Because here's the thing: you buy life insurance with your health. You just happen to pay for it with cash.
mm,
The healthier you are, the more qualified you are for some life insurance. Like I said, you buy it with your health. You just pay for it with cash.
mm, okay. So yeah, I mean, even stuff like sickle cell anemia, like they listed cystic fibrosis, but sickle cell anemia was is running rampant.
Mm-hmm.
That is a
It
you
is.
know yeah.
And I just
So
had to. I just uh, had a client try to get life insurance, and we found out then that a lot of companies don't cover it. So I had to go with the. Luckily, she was a 40, over 40. So I was able to go into my tool bag and get this guarantee policy out. And like, here you go, do for you. Um, and I told her about annuities. So there's some things that we can put in place, but again, we got to do better at taking care of ourselves. We got to get our health and shit in order. Like we can't be, we see what it's doing to our people, but we don't want to make that change. And then we get offended or we get upset when we can't get the things that we want. Like, what do you mean I can't get this $150,000 policy, or you know, because your health is bad. Like it just is what it is. This is not a me thing. If it was a me thing, you could have it, but I don't run this. I'm the middleman. So my hands are tied. Like this is what they want. This is what they're looking for, and they consider you high risk. You're freaking 280 pounds and you're 5'8" and you got diabetes and high blood pressure and you smoke cigarettes. What am I supposed to do with that?
right.
So yeah, it's this is an eye opener, and that's why I like to do this. Going over what these companies are looking for, because a lot of people don't know, and I feel like the more we talk about this and the more we get knowledge out there, the more people can start to wake up and get their health in order so that they can get their house in order and get their temples in order. Like it's a whole process. This so you gotta be starting with getting your house and your temple in order first, and then let's revisit this. So what
Mm,
I am able to do though, like say for example, if it's a person over 40 and they got bad health and they're not where they need to be yet, what they can do is go ahead and start that guaranteed issue policy, keep it for a year, take that year, get your health in order. And then when, hit me back up in a year, I'll hit you up in a year and see where you are. If your health is better and you got a clean bill of health from a doctor and everything is looking good, then we can get you that traditional life insurance policy. Like we can go back and switch that up. You're not bound. You don't have to keep this, but you have to get your shit in order to get what you want.
well, that's good to know. That's good to know. I think you covered autism. That's not an automatic disqualifier. So let me just put that just in
What
case.
about autism? I just saw that. So autism, if they are highly functioning autistic, they could potentially still qualify for traditional life insurance. If they have severe autism, until they turn 40, they're not going to be able to get any sort of life insurance. The only thing you can do unless you get it, through your job, through a group life insurance policy, and they don't ask any medical questions. because any sort of life insurance the parent tries to get and put the child on, if it asks medical questions, your child is going to get declined, and you're going to only be able to do an annuity on them until they turn 40, and then you can get them a guaranteed issue policy. So I always try to tell people, like, spread this knowledge, man. People need to start getting life insurance on these babies as soon as they get a social security number for them. Some companies, you don't need that social, they just need to be 15 days old. But if you're trying to get them any sort of really good life insurance policy, get it as soon as you get their social security number. Do not wait, because once they start having, going to these doctor's appointments and they start getting vaccines, and then, things start happening to them for whatever reason, be it the vaccine or whatever else it is that happens to them. Once that stuff starts happening and it gets documented on their medical records, their chances of getting traditional life insurance start to drop. So again, this is knowledge that needs to be spread. Like, we got to stop waiting and putting life insurance on, because once they have it, as long as that policy is being paid, they're good. You never have to worry about a policy for them ever again. But if you wait and they get diagnosed with something, be it autism, childhood diabetes, ADHD, or, childhood cancer, any of that stuff, they're out the game right there. Hopefully this answered your question, Human Justice Corporation. If someone in their mid-30s could get, if one is in their, if, what do you mean if one is in their mid-30s? Yeah, they can get life insurance. Are they healthy? Even if they're semi-healthy, depending on what the health condition is that they have, they could still qualify for life insurance. And it's fairly cheap for somebody in the mid-30s. I literally just quoted a guy 2 weeks ago, 35-year-old non-smoking male, $50,000 policy for $12.69 a month. Like, you literally cannot beat that. And you can pay these policies up for a whole year if you choose to, and you don't have to worry about it until next year. But stop procrastinating and get these policies put in place, man. That's the other thing we got to do, is we got to stop procrastinating. There's so many people out here walking around without life insurance. That is scary. So if someone in their mid-30s, yes, they can get life insurance, and I would highly encourage them to do it, like, right now. Like, don't wait. If you have luxury of still having some income coming in with all of this stuff going on out here, this is definitely the time that you want to go ahead and put this in place. Because once you get a policy put in place, you don't have to worry about it again. Like, it's a done deal, at least for the next 30 years. If it's a term policy, or if you get a permanent policy, you never have to worry about it again. So honestly, it's just really up to you. So hopefully, Chaos Rain, that answered your question. If you guys have more specific questions and you want to get in touch with me, you can text me or call me at 702-330-5706, or you can email me at Dawn, DAWN, @ GENWEALTH agency.com. That's Dawn at genwealthagency.com. Again, my phone number is 702-330-5706. And you can find my business pages on Facebook. Generational Wealth Solutions, LLC, powered by Equus Financial, is my life insurance page. My skincare products page is Soulful Creations 23 on Facebook. And if you're local to Vegas, Clark County, and you're looking for a mobile notary, my business page is on there for that as well, RBG Mobile Notary, LLC. If you are on Instagram, Generational Wealth Solutions, LLC, Soulful Creations 23, or RBG Mobile Notary, LLC. Those are on Instagram. Again, if you guys want to reach out to me, my number is 702-330-5706. That number is for all my businesses, whether it's for life insurance, mobile notary, skincare, and jewelry, or Reiki. You can reach me at that number for any one of those services. Knowledge Forum,
All right,
any more
got this.
questions?
No, we're good. We're good to go. I'm gonna introduce you to this brother so you could come on his platform. That way he can ask you those questions and you on the clock. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you
I
for your
appreciate
time,
you.
and I will see you next month. You know.
Yes, absolutely. Peace and blessings, y'all. Stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy, stay loved, stay light, and stay a blessing to everybody around you, y'all. Peace.